Picture this. A woman in Ohio pulls a mixer out of her pantry that her mother bought in 1978. It's heavy, the paint is chipped, the finish is that unmistakable harvest gold. She plugs it in, drops in 4 cups of flour and a stiff bagel dough, and it just works. No straining, no burning smell, no drama. Meanwhile, 3 states over, a guy films his 2-year-old KitchenAid making a grinding sound halfway through his second loaf of sourdough, then going completely silent. One machine is nearly 50 years old, the other isn't old enough to start preschool. And here's the part nobody wants to talk about. That's not an accident, that's not bad luck, that's engineering. Last month a client brought me her grandmother's avocado green mixer from 1974, asked if it was worth saving, and when I opened it up, the internal gears looked cleaner than mixers I'd seen come off the shelf this year. So what actually changed? The hidden truth is this. Modern KitchenAid bowl lift mixers have quietly replaced a critical internal component, the worm follower gear, with nylon or plastic. The older legendary models from the Hobart era ran an all-metal drivetrain top to bottom. KitchenAid's official position is that the plastic gear is sacrificial, designed to strip on purpose to protect the motor during a jam. The Buy It for Life community calls it something else entirely. Planned obsolescence wearing a safety costume. And the truth, as you're about to see, sits in a very uncomfortable middle ground, one most buyers never learn about until their mixer is already dead on the counter. Before we go deeper, if you care about appliances that actually last, stick with me to the end because I'm going to show you exactly how to spot a real Buy It for Life model on the secondhand market and which modern ones still hold up. Here's the context most people miss. Until 1986, KitchenAid stand mixers were built by Hobart. Yes, that Hobart, the company that makes the commercial dishwashers and meat grinders in every serious restaurant kitchen in America. Those engineers weren't designing for grandma's cookies. They were designing light commercial equipment that happened to fit on a home countertop, overbuilt, overspec'd, meant to outlive the person who bought it. Then Whirlpool acquired the KitchenAid brand, and over the following decades, the internals were slowly, quietly downgraded. The shell stayed the same. That iconic silhouette you recognize from your childhood? Identical. But what's inside that shell today bears almost no resemblance to what was inside it in 1978, and that's exactly why people get fooled. They see the shape, they assume they're buying the legend. So let's talk about what's actually happening inside the machine. A planetary stand mixer works like this. The motor spins. That spin gets transferred through a worm gear, which drives the worm follower gear, which then powers the planetary drive that moves the beater around the bowl. The worm follower is the translator in that chain. It's the component that takes all the torque and redirects it. In a Hobart era mixer, that piece was solid metal. Zinc, bronze, or steel, depending on the model. In a modern standard bowl lift, that same piece is often nylon or reinforced plastic. When you ask a mixer to knead heavy dough, the torque load at that exact point goes up dramatically. Metal handles it. Plastic survives for a while, then strips, usually right at the worst possible moment. Now here's where it gets interesting. KitchenAid's defense of this design isn't completely wrong. The sacrificial gear argument has real engineering merit. If the beater hits a frozen stick of butter or a wooden spoon falls into the bowl, yes, a nylon gear will shear before the motor burns out. That's a genuine protection mechanism. A $30 gear replacement beats a $200 motor replacement every single time. The logic is sound, in theory. The problem is that in real kitchens, that gear isn't stripping because of catastrophic jams. It's stripping because someone made pizza dough, or bagels, or a double batch of chocolate chip cookies at Christmas. Things the machine is literally marketed to do right there on the box. And this is where the gap between marketing and mechanical reality gets uncomfortable. The box shows bread. The commercials show bread. The recipe book that comes with the mixer has bread recipes in it, but push the machine to actually knead a stiff dough for 8 minutes. The way the recipe says, and you're rolling dice on that nylon gear. I've seen this happen more times than you'd think. Someone buys the mixer specifically to start baking sourdough, strips the gear on their second or third loaf, calls the company, and gets told they overloaded it. Overloaded it doing the exact thing they bought it for. Quick pause. If you're someone who owns one of these mixers or is thinking about buying one, I'd genuinely love to hear which generation you've got in the comments, because the stories people share end up helping everyone else who watches this. The material downgrade didn't happen overnight. It happened in stages, quietly, over about 20 years. Early post-Hobart models kept most of the metal internals. Then the worm follower went first, because it was the easiest component to swap without changing the exterior tooling. Then other internal pieces followed. Each change shaved a few dollars off the cost of production. Multiply that by millions of units, and you understand why the decision makes perfect sense on a spreadsheet. The customer still sees the same mixer on the shelf. The engineer sees something fundamentally different underneath. So here's what they claim versus what actually happens. They claim the sacrificial gear protects your investment. In reality, once that gear strips out of warranty, you're looking at a repair bill that's often 50 to 70% of the cost of a new unit. At that point, most people, understandably, just buy a new one. And the cycle continues. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's just how the economics are structured. Whether it's intentional or simply convenient is the debate, but the outcome is the same either way. There's another myth worth killing. A lot of people assume that if they spend more and buy the bowl lift model instead of the tilt head, they're getting the commercial grade machine. That's not automatically true. Bowl lift means the bowl moves up and down on a lever. It does not by itself mean metal internals. Some standard bowl lift models have the exact same nylon worm follower as the tilt heads. The models that genuinely retain an all-metal drivetrain today are the higher tier commercial and pro line units, specifically the NSF certified commercial models designed for light food service use. A bakery owner I talked with last year learned this the hard way after buying what she thought was a commercial mixer at a big box store, only to strip the gears in under 4 months of daily use. The machine she needed was 2 model numbers up and nearly double the price. Before we get to the part where I show you how to actually buy one of these properly, let me say this. If you've ever inherited an old mixer, don't throw it out, don't donate it, don't replace it with something new assuming new means better. Get it serviced. You're holding a small piece of American manufacturing history, and this is where the stakes really start climbing. The independent repair shops that used to rebuild these old Hobart era mixers are closing down year after year. Parts for the vintage units are getting harder to source, which means the supply of true buy it for life mixers is finite and shrinking. Everyone that gets tossed in a landfill because someone assumed it was too old is one less that exists in the world. 10-15 years from now, the last of the Hobart era machines will start genuinely retiring, and at that point the secondhand market as we know it today simply won't exist anymore. So here's how you actually navigate this. If you're shopping secondhand, look for model numbers starting with K5SS, K45, or the earlier 3C and 4C designations. Those are your Hobart era targets. The mixer should feel heavy in a way modern ones don't. Look for Hobart stamped on the base plate or in the casting. Check the motor housing for cast metal rather than formed sheet. If you're buying new and you want metal internals, look specifically at the KitchenAid commercial NSF certified line or the Pro Line series, and verify the spec sheet. Don't just trust the product name. If neither option fits your budget, brands like Anchor's Rum and Famag build mixers with genuinely different, more durable architectures that are worth researching before you commit. Think back to that opening scene, the Harvest Gold mixer from 1978 still pulling dough like the day it was bought, and the 2-year-old modern one in pieces on the counter. That contrast isn't a story about one good brand and one bad brand. It's the same brand, same name, same silhouette, different machine entirely. And that's the real lesson here. Iconic products can change underneath their own skin, and most consumers never find out until the thing they trusted stops working. You now know more than 95% of people walking into a store to buy one of these. You know what to look for, what to avoid, and what questions to actually ask. If this gave you a new way to look at the appliances in your kitchen, stick around. The next one digs into another everyday machine that's quietly doing the same thing, and once you see it, you can't unsee it.